Football Friday. How we doing today? Evan and Tiki for the next 4.5 hours. A lot of football to get to. Thoughts on the Jets, thoughts on the Giants, the thoughts on the rest of what's going on in Week 10 in the NFL. We've got the posting of potentially future Met, future Yankee, but probably future Dodger. Munetaka Murakami we'll get to.
Definitely Dodger.
And, of course, your phone calls over the next 4.5 hours at 888-808-1019. On the heels of the Sean Morash report, amongst others, tell me if I'm speaking out of school when I say this. As the New York Giants get set to take on the Chicago Bears Sunday afternoon in Chicago, and even rethinking to what you said on Monday about the lack of leadership, this feels like a let go of the rope kind of game. And if that rope is let go of, Sean's report could turn out to be true on Monday morning. Brian Daboll could potentially lose his job if things are ugly Sunday in Chicago. True or false?
I doubt it. I don't think that's going to be the case, simply because it's so hard when you fire a coach to not keep free-falling. It becomes disastrous. I mean, this happened once with us, obviously. We talked about it multiple times with Jim Fossil stepping down or getting fired, whatever you want to position it. But he stayed on as the coach, and we didn't even get close to winning another game. It just became an unmotivating environment. It didn't make any sense, because why are you listening to a guy who you know is not going to be there next year or the next week or whatever the situation would be? I think the Giants have an opportunity this weekend to stop all of the bleeding and the nonsense that is floating around this team. And I don't mean nonsense meaning it's not true and that guys aren't on the hot seat. I mean the nonsense distractions.
The talk of it goes away with a win. At least for a day.
100%.
At least for a week.
When you think about preparing for a week of a football game, it is you get in, you review last week's tape, then you start thinking about how do we beat the next opponent. And it's hard to do that when every day all you're getting is, well, your coach is going to be gone. What do you think about that? Well, what are you going to do when you have a new staff in here? How does that affect your process going forward? And it's just it's distractionary. You can't focus on putting a game plan together, putting the best options on the game plan, and then practicing it, and then getting everybody on the same page and preparing to win a game. Winning games are hard in the NFL, and when you start to get distracted by all the other stuff that has nothing to do with the Sunday, but more about the 30,000-foot picture of a team, it gets impossible to win. And so the opportunity for the Giants this week is to block all that out and just win a damn game. Now, it's too early and it's cliche to say this is must-win for whatever reason, but this is must-win for me if you're the Giants, because you've been hemorrhaging right now in the court of public opinion. You have to stem it somehow. Something good has to happen other than Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
And Jackson Dart is going to be, I think he's going to continue to be the story. But winning needs to be the story.
Well, it's interesting. Must win is always a term I hate so much, because nothing's really a must win until you have to win the game and your season is over. Like Game 7 of the World Series is a must win game.
Right.
But you are kind of right when you look at the rest of the season and where it's going. The Chicago Bears are an interesting team. They're a team on the rise, or at least that's the belief, if you believe in Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. They're on the rise.
Right.
But they're also the most beatable team on your schedule for the next month, because then you're going to play the Green Bay Packers. That doesn't really feel winnable. And then you're going to play the Detroit Lions. And, yes, that doesn't feel winnable.
In Detroit.
And then you're going to go to Foxborough and play the Patriots. And that doesn't feel winnable. So I guess when you think of must wins, it's like, well, okay, great. Winning, and then what? I think the winning, and you put it best, it just stops the bleeding for a week.
Yes.
It quiets the noise for a week. It stops the constant talk amongst fans, which I think is rightfully so. I don't criticize us for saying it, that, hey, this head coach has to go. Like, that's what the record indicates.
Yes.
So I don't think it's unfair, but I do think a win will at least stem it a little bit. and give you just a little bit of hope, because I think if you lose this game and you're 2-8 and you're on a 4-game losing streak and you're staring down at the Packers, Lions, and Patriots, it is very likely you're going to be 2-11, which also means it's very likely that at some point they are just going to fire Brian Daboll.
Yeah, because once you get to the point where you can't motivate guys and they're not all in and it looks it, then you've lost, right? Then you've lost your job. You've lost your ability to do your job at a high level. And that's where Daboll is right now. It's just the reality of what's going on. And so the only way to stem that is to put a good product, have your team prepared, which, by the way, they have been prepared. They just haven't been good enough, particularly defensively. But have your team prepared, highly motivated, and win a game that you're not supposed to win, right? The Bears are 5-3. Right? They're not world beaters, but they run the hell out of the football. They've rushed for 200 yards in two of their last three games.
I do have a question about the Chicago Bears, and I think the mirror imageness between the Giants and the Bears is fascinating.
From a year ago. Bears from a year ago.
From a year ago and where you want to be. And the mirror is probably more than even people realize. So, number one, I think the one that jumps out at you is Caleb Williams. Like, hey, they drafted a quarterback, they fired a coach after 1 year, or 1 year into his term, hired a new head coach, and things are looking up. They have a top 10 offense, they're 5-3, things are looking up. But the other mirror image of the Bears and the Giants that I do find fascinating gets into a debate that I know Tommy and Sean will have scheduled today at 3:30 in terms of who's failed more, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. The Chicago Bears hired a general manager and a head coach in the same offseason. Their names were Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Now, the difference is they came from different organizations.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they hired a GM in Ryan Poles, they hired a head coach, and they were married, right? And then they failed. And then they drafted a quarterback. And then in the middle of last year, year one of the quarterback, the head coach, Matt Eberflus, got fired.
Yeah.
And the GM, Ryan Poles, kept his job and hired Ben Johnson. And voila, here we are. The Bears are 5-3, and the GM and coach that came in at the same time got split up. The GM stayed. I'm sure there was talk in Chicago at the time of blame them both. They both suck. And yet the GM did survive.
Yeah.
Picked a new head coach. And at least for now, we're 8 games into the season, card subject to change. The Bears seem like they're in a better place. It does feel an awful lot like the Giants.
Yeah, no, it does. And I'm not saying that the same thing is going to happen or even it should happen, but if you're looking for not the quick turnaround, because, again, I don't know how good the Bears are. The Bears have beaten the Cowboys, who have been bad this year. They can't stop a nosebleed. The Raiders, who are turnover machines. The Commanders, I guess that was their good win. The Commanders was their good win, because I think Jaden Daniels was still playing in that game. Maybe he wasn't. I can't remember now. No, maybe he got hurt in that game. Then they beat the New Orleans Saints, which is whatever. It's a walkover. And then they beat the Bengals.
Outscored the Bengals.
Basically. Who had the ball last was basically winning that football game. And
the wins aren't overly impressive.
Right, so they're good, but it's only because they've won games that they're supposed to. And so the difference is that the Giants aren't winning the games that they can or are supposed to. And so would that change if a new head coach came in and you had a new attitude, a new feel about? Sure, maybe. I don't know. But right now, I don't think the Giants can start looking that way. The fans can go start looking that deeply, but I don't think the organization can. You got to figure out a way to stop the hemorrhaging that's happening right now.
Yeah, the other potential similarity, and I say potential because it hasn't happened yet, was that Matt Eberflus was fired in the middle of last year.
Right.
And he was fired in the middle of last year, I guess partially because of the tipped interception loss to the Washington Commanders a month before he got fired. So there was a really bad collapse on the resume. And so that's another thing that very well could be similar. I don't know if Brian Daboll is going to finish the year here. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what happens next. You know, if this is ugly in Chicago on Sunday, I can see it happening on Monday night or Monday morning. If the losses continue to pile up and the bleeding continues, and let's say there is quit in that room, I could absolutely see it happening. Not that it's going to make a difference in the short term. It certainly didn't last year when Chicago did it. Does it give them an advantage that you have a head start on the coaching search? Maybe, maybe not. But there are times where you just say, he ain't the guy, we're going to move on. And so I look at the Chicago team, and maybe it's a sign of hope if you're a Giant fan, because they are in a good place right now. I think you'd be pretty happy if next year the Giants were 5-3,
right.
Even if we looked at their wins and said, it's not that impressive.
Had 2 good running backs.
Yeah, running the ball, the quarterback's
good
developing.
Wide receivers, a quarterback who can throw, but also can scramble around and make plays with his legs as well. It's like, I mean, they're not the ideal, but they are the example of how things can turn around.
There's example
no doubt about that.
of how things can turn around. They're the example for everybody out there, and there are plenty who freak out about breaking up the Jackson Dart camaraderie with his head coach or his offensive coordinator. It happens.
Yeah, players matter more. To me, it's players matter more. And when you get a coach like Ben Johnson, I'm just assuming this is the case because I don't know. We haven't called Ben Johnson game yet. I don't know yet. But Ben Johnson seems to have this offense operating perfectly to their limits right now. And I mean that primarily in the run game. And when you watch it, it is interesting because it looks like it's 1998 or early 2000s football.
Right.
Caleb Williams, who never was under center in college, he's under center a big deal. A big amount of times. They have a fullback that gets under center, and they just run downhill at you. And they have a quarterback who can make you defend the 6th skill position player, and they score points. It's just I don't want to put it all on the coach, but this is a markedly different team than it was a year ago.
No, absolutely. The other thing in doing the research on what led to Eberflus's firing, to see, just kind of following the tea leaves on when coaches get fired midseason, and I am throwing Robert Saleh out because that's Woody Johnson just being Woody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, good reason that they made that decision, but it sounded like the message from Matt Eberflus was being lost. And yes, it was buoyed by a brutal loss in the middle of the season, and the players stopped hearing the message. This is the thing I don't know. This is the thing you don't even know, despite doing pre and post, because we're not in that room to hear it and feel it. Is the message being lost? Is this a talent issue? Is this a messaging issue? Is it everything?
Yeah, I don't think it's the message necessarily. Some of it is the in-game decisions. That's both offensively and defensively. We can go back to the Denver game, go back to the defensive schemes, the ineffectiveness of this defense, especially against the run the last couple of weeks. But to me, it feels like a motivating thing. It's not a message thing. It's a motivating thing. It's do I want to do this not only for my coach, but for my teammates, for myself? If you don't come into work every day saying that, I owe it to myself, I owe it to my teammates, I owe it to my coach, then at some point during a game you're gonna quit, right? Not like fully quit, but you're just not gonna have it. And in order to win in this league, everybody has to have it, and the coach provides that, or the coach is supposed to provide that. He's supposed to generate that inside of every guy. And coaching is nuanced, man. We know this. It goes back to the stories of Bill Parcells and how he coached LT versus everybody else. There's a nuance into coaching. And if you don't have your pulse on the guys that matter, you don't have a chance as a team.
Right.
And so to me, I feel like that's more of what's occurring right now. Not necessarily, this team isn't ready. It's not that. It's just the pulse is lost, and they got to find it.
Is it tougher, or does it become tougher to find the pulse when every week you just keep losing?
Very much so.
I think that's the challenge we're facing.
100%.
Right, they're losing all the time.
No matter what happens, you can go in with the best of attitudes, of desires, of energy, game plan, whatever it may be, and then you still find a way to lose. Denver. They dominated that game. Yeah. Dominated that game. And they found a way to lose it. Like that gets discouraging.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to expect to be discouraged, it's going to happen, right? No matter what you believe, that's going to happen. As soon as you start believing, we're going to screw this up anyways, it's over.
WFAN NFL football is powered by Verizon. We'll get to your calls next, 888-808-1019.